So I suppose there's a number of things that we can do in this season to try and inspire others to be part of this whole church approach of serving children and young people that we talk about. We can renew and refresh and articulate our vision well. We can tell stories that might get people excited. We can put a serious amount of prayer into it. We can make that ask personal and accessible, and we can offer some training and support for people. But I don't know, you could be sitting there going, we've done all that. I've tried all that.
Yeah.
And we still can't get anybody. Or, oh, that's all very well and good for you to say, but literally I am the only volunteer in my church. And I know for some people that is their context. And I wonder if there's some harder questions to answer if that's the context. Maybe it's time to stop and examine the whole youth and children's ministry of the church. Maybe we need to change the question as well. From how do we get enough leaders to run all our activities to what do we need to do to enable discipleship and mission among and with children and young people? Is there anything that could stop? What needs prioritised? Because very often we can treat it like a list. Here's all the activities we need to run. Here's the number of leaders we need, and we can't get them, so we can't do it. Instead of, right, what do our young people and children need so that they can be followers of Jesus and so they can be the ones reaching their friends for Jesus? What would you do if you found yourself in that scenario? Have you ever been in that scenario where you're the only volunteer or you're struggling to get people on board? What would you do?
Yeah, I think probably building on what you have said already, Gillian, start thinking outside the box and asking yourself some really hard questions, and maybe making some really hard choices as well. And that is not easy. It's never easy. And actually, especially if you're passionate about something, especially if it is your heart, and actually nobody else seems to be on board.
Yeah.
Nobody else is getting
it's
that. That's a really tough place to be and a really disheartening place to be. But I guess it's going back to God and saying, right, God, this is where we find ourselves. This is where I find myself. What is mine to do? What's mine to do in this season, in this moment, where I can't get other leaders? I still have this heart for children and people. I want something to happen, but actually I don't know what that looks like. And maybe it means that actually we start talking to people outside of our own church, in our community, in our town, seeing what else is happening or going on. I think quite often we can have a church right across the street and they have a thriving BB or GB or youth club. And actually, maybe we would love something in our own church. Maybe that is our heart. But actually, if we can pull together our resources and we can go and be a part of what they're doing, because they already have stuff happening, and if I can offer my support, even if it means my children and young people are going to go to that youth club, actually, it's a bigger kingdom question of, actually, do you know what, this is where they're going to have community, find belonging, where I hope they're going to grow in faith. And actually, I could go and help there. I could go be a part of that. And that does not mean that us as a church saying we don't care about you and we're not providing for you. Because actually, that means you might not do the youth club, but you could still provide mentors. You know, you could still journey alongside a young person. Once a month, you could have a family event where actually you're still saying, we're still doing family because you're still part of our family.
Absolutely.
But actually, we just can't run the youth fellowship or the youth club. So actually, you're still saying we love you. You're still part of our family. But actually, we're more concerned about you growing and falling in love with Jesus more and more and living that every day as we are about you just being here and ours.
Absolutely.
But that's tough.
That's tough.
That's a huge thing.
It is tough.
And again, that shouldn't just be yours to carry. That should be you as a church saying, okay, this is what we're going to do. But yeah, it's big.
I think it's a bit of a crunch time as a church when it comes to the next generation, isn't it? Many churches, and we've loved hearing the stories of churches who've been so creative as they've kind of reshaped and reimagined their youth and children's ministry over this season. But like across the board, and not just in Methodism, but in lots and lots of different churches have managed to hold on to that kind of core group of young people who've been really committed to Jesus, or families are really committed to the church, and they've hung on to that core. But young people kind of on the margins of church have disappeared a little bit in the middle of this pandemic, and children and there's two sides to every story. So some context that looks really different. Actually, they've got more kids coming along than they've ever had because they've tried something new and something different. But I do think we need to take this question of who will pass on faith to the next generation like really seriously at the minute, or we're in danger of losing a generation. And so actually taking time now to pause and go, what's our vision? What's God asking of us is worth our time. It's really worth our time. And maybe refining that and narrowing down a little what we do, and focusing what we do so that we really serve children and young people moving forward. And I really don't think we need to do everything we always did. Now, there'll be things we don't want to let go of because they were the things that really worked, but we don't necessarily need to do everything. And I think that's the danger, that we feel that we've to step back into everything we always did, get all the leaders back in place and just walk back in September and it'll all be the same. But the world has changed, the landscape has changed. And so taking time to think and pray is actually really key. And as you talked about in your introduction, like, we haven't been this way before.
No.
We're going down new paths, down new roads.
Yeah.
But the beauty is we're not on our own.
Yeah.
We have this amazing God who loves these young people and children more than we do, who knows every hair on their head, who knows their worries and their cares and their family situations and the things they love and their favourite TV programme. Like, God gets it and loves them more than we do.
Yeah.
And it's our privilege to walk and journey with them. And so as we move forward, we love to support and resource you as churches and leaders as you think through what it looks like to serve young people and children in this next little part of coming out of the pandemic, we hope. We hope and pray. And so please do contact. Each district has a staff link person. So please do contact that person. You can find the information on IMYC's website. They love to talk with you, to sit down. If we can do it in person, even better, and have a cup of coffee, but happily do a Zoom meeting to talk through what could be yours to do as you move forward and as you endeavour to serve children and young people. We hope this has been useful. But most of all, we're just excited that we're in this together as we pass on faith to the next generation.